First and foremost, thank you to everyone for attending today. I'd just like to make a quick mention that this meeting is being recorded. And it will be posted to the CABA website for those who are not able to attend. And we will be sharing the link within the next few days by email, so you will receive that. So again, thank you for coming to or attending our CABA quarterly IBC webinar meeting. My name is Marta Klopotowska, and I am the program manager here at CABA. I'll be emceeing the meeting slides. So if we can, Greg, would you like to kick off with the agenda for today?
Sure. Thanks, Marta. Yeah, so here's the agenda. So we'll start off with a call to order, welcome, and introductions, and that'll be done from Bob Allen from the Seaman Company, who's been a longtime vice chair, and then do some administrative work where we approve the last meeting minutes. So if those that are ready or looked at those, you need a first and a seconder to approve those minutes. Then go into a research update for our landmark research project, and then our ongoing research project with BAX, and then maybe even talk a little bit about our future one that we're going to be doing in 2022. And then there'll be a keynote presentation from Rajender from Energy Metrics on ESG in buildings less than 2,000 square feet. And Ken Wax will give a white paper update. We'll go through some new business and then some announcements of events past and upcoming, and then there'll be an adjournment. So with that, I'll pass it off to Bob Allen to give a little bit of update on the IBC.
Great, thanks, Greg. Appreciate that handoff. And welcome to everybody. Appreciate you attending today's Intelligent Building Council meeting, where we have a long history of bringing new technology topics, education, and market strategies to a wide variety of people, a lot of public and private information as well. I am Bob Allen. I am, again, I think I'm at the moment the longest standing vice chair. Today I'm acting chair for the meeting. I'm joined by Harsha Shadrankashar and Robert Lane as well. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. And as we look to start off our meeting, the first thing we'll do is approve our minutes from our last session. Hopefully you had a chance to glance at those. They are at caba.org/IBC. The meeting minutes and notes, they're listed there from December 7th, 2021. I'd like to make a call for a motion to approve those minutes.
Hey, Bob. Harsha, yeah, I approve.
Thank you, Harsha. Do we have anyone who will second that motion?
I'll second it, Bob.
Great, thanks, Bob. Are there any opposed? Hearing no one opposed, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Thank you all for that. Bob Lane, let me hand it over to you for a research update.
Yes, there's, I believe there's two major projects going on at the present time. One dealing with the AI and predictive maintenance for intelligent building. Believe, Greg, there are now some 20 participants in this project. And I guess it is underway at the moment, correct?
Yeah, we just did the final bit of the.
You did the final bidding, and
yeah. It's completed, but we're just doing some one-on-one webinars with the group. But it was a completed project.
And the second one is the market sizing. I believe that's underway. It's set for 2, if not finished.
Yeah, for this research project, well, it originally came from Raphael Imhoff from Siemens, where there was a need for building automation control systems market data in North America. So what we did is we reached out to a lot of the control companies, and we got almost everyone that we did the invitation to join the project to share some of their data.
If the big guys don't tell the information, the rest of the small ones don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so I think we have a really good sense of the market here when we're working with Bizria, who've had a lot of experience doing this market data. And it's an invitation-only research project, and the goal is to continue it on in 2022. and maybe get one of the last key players train on the project as well to get a little bit greater data. But we're look at software, we're looking at some hardware as well, and eventually even looking at some field devices if once we get all the process or ironed out, and potentially invite more to join the research down the road. But the goal is to have it as an annual project going forward.
And it really just covers the major players of the industry.
Yeah,
I think those are the only two projects underway at the moment, Greg.
Yeah, we're looking to do, we had a board meeting on the 31st, and we talked about different projects to go forward for 2022. We surveyed some members, we surveyed some research firms, and it looks like healthy buildings and indoor air quality came out as the top. So I'm providing the board with a little bit more granularity in those topics and fleshing out the details a little bit more on that. And we'll likely have that finalized shortly. And then in about a month's time, we'd probably have a research prospectus and RFP to go out to CABA member research firms to bid on it, and there'll be an opportunity for people to fund that current project that we're looking to complete in this calendar year.
Are there any questions from anybody regarding the research underway at the moment?
Greg, this is David. The Digital Twin Consortium that's writing a white paper on the same topic, should we maybe defer to see what the research provides?
So we're looking at, once we get this research prospectus done, once we get the topic really finalized, we'll be reaching out to others, and I can definitely reach out to the Digital Twin Consortium and we get their feedback. It's kind of a working topic until the research starts, but we'll be gathering a lot of intel and really working with the research firm that's selected to utilize some of those other essentially resources and other groups in the industry and see what they're working on. The goal is not to duplicate what's already out there, but to have really a secondary research component which incorporates some of the work from other groups, and then a primary research component that is specific to this research. So it's a little bit of both.
Okay, thanks. Well, we're having our meeting and just to discuss it. Thanks.
Yeah, let me know how it goes, and we'll definitely we're in touch with them on a white paper on digital twins that we hopefully be starting soon.
Any other comments at the moment? Then it's over to you, Robert.
Great. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. Now we're off to a special guest to discuss environmental, social, and governance in buildings of less than 20,000 feet. Harsha, you're going to lead this discussion for us. We're excited about that. Please take it.
Thanks, Bob, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are here to listen to talk on the environmental, social, and governance in buildings of less than 20,000 square feet. ESG is a key industry topic, especially now that firms around the world are taking a pledge towards net zero. While there are multiple ways to be sustainable for large commercial buildings, bring ESG into buildings of less than 20,000 square feet and also avoiding risk at the same time is a little challenging. The presentation will focus on steps that can be taken to minimize carbon impact on the planet. Our speaker today has about 30 years of experience in creating IT strategies for countless companies, including many Fortune 500. He is currently the CEO of Energy Metrics, an IoT solution for holistic infrastructure building management systems. His core expertise revolves around creating IoT and analytic solutions for companies striving to reduce their energy and operational costs. At Energy Metrics, the focus is on building energy, operational and physical energy efficiency for any equipment at any location at any scale. Clients rely on Energy Metrics for process transformation and automation to achieve business and carbon efficiency. Energy Metrics is headquarters in New York, with clients across North America, such as Royal Bank of Canada, Aligned Energy Infrastructure, Ontario, CBRE, JLL, among others. Please welcome Rajendran Avadiyappan, and welcome, and over to you, Rajendran, to take this presentation forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsha. Thanks everyone for having me in the session today. Really appreciate the opportunity. I think the overall intent is to reduce the carbon footprint. I think all of us are looking at that as a broader global perspective and increasing efficiencies. And I was listening to some of the earlier discussions. This is not a new initiative. It's been there in all our minds for the past many decades, and ever since automation and optimization was brought into the buildings. I think this concept has existed. It's not new. Every time it's presented in a different package. This time it is ESG, right? So with that, I'd like to dive into the slides. Martha, can I request you to move? I think broadly, when we talk about the environment, energy comes to our mind the most. It's not new. I'm sure everyone in this forum knows the impact of energy and its dimensions, but I thought of bringing a few salient points in relation to the small commercial buildings. So it's interesting to note that almost 68% of commercial building stock in Canada are small commercial buildings, which is, some people classify it as less than 10,000. Some people classify it as less than 20,000 square foot. So that's and then 18% of commercial building energy use is consumed by this segment. And for a comparative context, in the US, there is a study which was done a few years before, which talks about almost 25% of the energy spent in SCBs, the small commercial buildings, is actually wasted by way of inefficient management, improper materials, and so on and so forth. I think there was a cue in the beginning of the session where we're discussing about only so much can be done with HVAC improvements and energy management.
Next week we will.
The real problem is actually in the building itself. There's a need for us to go. It's a long way to go. But I think what's important is there is a lack of necessary information with which we can come to conclusions. And that's where we think the strategy needs to be. So use of new technology and equipment has increased significantly. Costs of IoT, cloud, all of that has come down, and it has become much more easier to realize some of the lofty goals that we have had. Since 90s, I've been in the market. So I'm sure this all started even before that. The challenge with small commercial buildings is it's also that it becomes very complex when we try and manage a portfolio. And especially if I want to apply a common set of rules across all the entire portfolio, units. So that's essentially the broader context. And the need is to evolve something which could be cloud-based, something which could take advantage of low-cost devices and controls capabilities that we have created over the last decade, and how to make sure that even the new devices, it could be electronic, particularly all types of electronic digital devices, display devices, and so on. How do we bring them also into our net of monitoring and control? So that's essentially what we think is the driving factor, the core of most initiatives. So moving on, the past strategies that we have deployed have actually really brought a lot of interesting benefits. It's not that we have not achieved anything significant, but most of the strategies which have been employed, I believe, are primarily design and construction interventions, building codes, and making sure everybody follows the building codes, and that, along with all the major companies, including Siemens and Schneider and everybody leading the whole control systems technologies and bringing BMS and BAS systems, have actually helped us reduce the it's interesting to see that over the last 18 years or 20 years, there has been a reduction of about 12% of energy per square meter in built areas, except that we've added a lot more square footage in terms of building spaces. I think that the need now is to go a little beyond just the design and construction interventions and maybe operational interventions, and later on add adaptive controls. So it cannot be a one-time, whenever we want kind of an intervention. It has to be a continuous monitoring. And if with any of that, we can avoid the waste of this 25% of energy that's being wasted in these small commercial buildings, I think that could be a huge step forward. The IoT, as I mentioned, the IoT and cloud technologies have made it possible to really make it a practical thing. But still, there's a big challenge that is, from a finance perspective, the usual ROI and payback, they become the bottlenecks. And we have evolved over the last few years some strategies to address some of the and mitigate some of those concerns. And those are the other subsequent slides that we have. Mata, can we move to the next? So I think one of the most important things that we need to keep in mind is a payback, and especially faster payback, because all the energy conservation, efficiency improvement initiatives, when they were put through the lens of finance, we look for payback. And the paybacks which we have had in the past with technologies that were available were much longer than to anybody's taste. And most CFOs dislike the idea of energy efficiency and so on and so forth. We have been involved in some interesting projects, like Harsha mentioned. We worked with Royal Bank of Canada and Infrastructure Ontario, where and also based on the work that we did with all of those locations, and did a research review with National Research Council, NRC Canada. And what we have found is these interventions have been able to bring about 19% of savings on electricity and about 16% on natural gas. And these were just focusing on scheduling of HVAC, lighting, and any energy consuming device based on the working hours, and also manage set points and do nighttime setbacks, and including daytime, maximize free cooling as much as possible. So that has been the strategy. And that initiative, has been able to bring out payback of less than 3 years. And we are continuing to add more locations to this program. We also moved on to allowing centralized and remote management of set points. And these are, as you can imagine, these are close to, we are right now managing about 600 locations. And all those locations are, all over the place, some rural, urban, everywhere. And coordinating maintenance on a day-to-day basis, and people traveling to those locations and taking care of set point management or any other simple, trivial initiatives that could be done remotely, that has cost a lot of expense. And we started measuring how many truck rolls and how many truck rolls can be avoided. And based on that, when we started, focusing on reducing travel costs, the payback became much better. It's now less than 1.5 years. So we broke the convention of just comparing with energy costs. We started adding other savings which are coming up through the same intelligent systems. And then recently, over the last year with COVID, obviously, I think there was a mention earlier in the pre-session conversation. I was overhearing it. So air quality sensors have become such an important element. So we have deployed air quality sensors in about 170 courthouses in Ontario, and we are adding that into the comfort management. So it's getting a little more complex to do without true BMS systems, ability to control the comfort and temperature and airflow is a challenge, but we are at least increasing awareness of air quality parameters with the FMs. And that's actually helping a lot in bringing additional value from the same platform, similar platforms. And water leak detection, flow control. This was another item which we identified as a very important element, because during COVID, majority of the locations reported a huge expenditure on repairs due to water leakage. So that inspired us to find out what can we do to detect leakage, as well as can we apply a shut off. Even if there is nobody available in the building, can we shut off the mains and make sure the leakage does not cause more damage? And that kind of extended to fuel leak detection. This has been a very interesting direction. The whole intent here is, how do we avoid repair costs? And another interesting development recently is they realized that there's a huge amount of electricity energy being spent on all the display devices, particularly if you look at the bank branches or courthouses. There are digital walls and monitors and huddle rooms and so on and so forth. So all of that, they're not necessarily regularly managed or scheduled for turning on or turning off. So adding those, using IoT sensors and being able to turn them on, turn them off, and proactive maintenance and so on and so forth has become another pet project in some of the organizations that we are working with. So these are the various additions that could improve the payback from the system. And since similar platforms are actually supporting various manufacturers and device types, it allows savings across all devices types. And it's not a manufacturer-driven initiative, but it's more a manufacturer-based or device-based initiative. It's more a broad-based initiative, and this reduces the risk of locking onto one system or one process. So that's this is our learning over the last about 3 years of engagement with these organizations, and some of this could be useful for a broader industrial application. Martha, can we move to the next slide? This is a very simple overview of a system like this. I mean, we work with this system called EM Connect. So I wanted to just share that as an example. There are many systems which are coming available these days in the market, very similar in architecture. They use devices, low-cost devices to monitor all the all the parameters, all the devices which are there in the individual units. It ranges from temperature and humidity and air quality all the way to water leakage, fuel leakage. We also monitor generators and UPS and ATS using Modbus and BACnet integrators. So these have become very commonplace, and we are able to, the systems are available so easily these days. Once the integration process is clarified, it becomes much easier to deploy. In fact, we have been deploying in locations in less than a day. If everything is planned properly and pre-configured, devices are shipped out, we're able to turn locations on in less than a day or maximum 2 days, depending on the size of the locations. And this also, we have been able to, not everything can be controlled, but practically all of them can be set on alerts. So there are alarm and alert thresholds which can be set, and people can be sent out an email, or they can even be pushed into a ticketing system so that it can be followed through and managed. And in some situations, we have been able to control, like for example, we want to turn on HVAC system. I mean, individual standalone RTUs and baseboards can be easily turned on or off, or we can manage their set points. And if they're already connected to BMS systems, the set points can be written to the BMS system control registers. So that's a strategy that we've been using, and optimize and save is the intent, and most of it is driven by centralized logic that's available on the cloud. And systems have now become very integrable in the sense there are a lot of vendors who have their approved vendor clouds, like for example Ecobee or Nest, or even some of the air quality sensors guys. They provide ready-made cloud infrastructure where they collect the data, and we can just use an API to integrate to them. We also have, we also see an increasing ability to integrate to utility data, AMI data, or also weather data. So these are all interesting developments and opportunities that are coming in the market, right? So, and we see this increasingly being used, and I think there has to be, if there is a way we could streamline all of these evolutions through a guideline or a standard, that would be fantastic. I'm just posing this as a suggestion or an appeal to CABA to probably bring all of this developments under some kind of a standard or a guided development that could be useful for the industry. So, Martha, can we move to the next slide? I think this is all, I've already spoken about it, but I thought it might be a good idea to summarize it in a single place. Beyond just energy, the E in ESG should include naturally water. Air quality is becoming such an important element because, as someone mentioned earlier, we not only need energy efficient buildings, we also need healthy buildings. So there's a need to bring health into it. One of the COVID time strategies I saw pretty common in most retail buildings and distributed buildings is let's flush the air, right? And make sure there is no infection inside the system. But it only took us so far because few months later, we started seeing increased energy usage, which was not the intent. So there's a need to optimize, and we started looking at increased desire for smart flushing instead of just flush. So there's a need for monitoring air quality and comfort and making sure the external and internal air quality parameters are kept in mind for smart flushing. So this, we think, is a very important dimension that needs to be kept in mind. Another thing is the truck rolls. Till the time we went deeper into it, we didn't realize it's very expensive. We realized based on our study, the energy costs, and the energy cost is only about 70% of the overall travel cost in a portfolio of about 600 branches. So we have been able to bring it down by remote monitoring and remote management through apps and whatnot. So that could be another strategy that we could consciously deploy to increase the savings that we could do at an operational level. And finally, since we are able to turn on equipment based on working schedules, as well as monitor some of the energy consumption and in some situations, vibrations, these are all using very low cost, $10 to $100 devices for monitoring. We have been able to increase uptime, of course, saving energy and money for the long term. So these are all the dimensions we think we could apply to bring the overall efficiencies higher. This is from the environment perspective. Martha, can we move on to the next slide? I thought looking at some of the screens and portfolio-wide information. So this is, for example, air quality sensors across 170 courtrooms. So they're able to look at it at a portfolio level as well as go down into the specific branches or specific locations. Martha, can we move to the next slide? At the branch level, one can go to specific sensors, which are specific locations, specific rooms, which are having unexpected behavior in their levels. So all of that can be looked at and then compared with the entire site or with the entire portfolio, and start looking at exceptional devices and inform the FMs or MES technicians to go and address those specific areas. Can we move on to the next slide, Martha? Yeah, so this is the issues are identified based on outside the allowed range values of humidity or temperature or air quality, and a combination of this has shown in some studies that the infections are higher when humidity is higher and the CO2 levels are higher. So we kind of took those areas very explicitly and started highlighting them to the MES technicians and program managers and FMs. And they've been able to go back to using whatever means they have to either manually or automatically rectify, remediate the air quality situations, and then not compromise the comfort and energy consumption. So that has been an interesting development. So we think we could take this as a strategy to a broader small commercial buildings segment. Next slide, please, Martha. The other angle that has been very efficient or effective is the individual device and portfolio-wide scheduling. For example, 4 times a year, there are set point changes that need to be done in every location based on where they are, and also based on their schedule time of operation. So we are able to centrally administer all of this. These are using Ecobee thermostats in some places, Nest or other local thermostats, Honeywell thermostats. There are different types of thermostats. So the common approach has allowed us to manage multiple thermostats from multiple devices, and it could be both cooling as well as heating. So all of that can be centrally managed. So the life of the energy manager has become so much easier and better. Not only the energy managers, but also the FMs. They're able to evolve a better operational strategy and execute it without having to keep pushing the FM teams all through the year. So this has been another I would say assured savings that we've been able to bring out. Next slide, please. The last part is, operationally speaking, if something needs to be done in a certain location, randomly sending somebody across, identifying where the actual device is a challenge, and also giving context to the actual branch occupants. They're not from the infrastructure management or facility management side, but they are actually regular employees, giving them some perspective of what's working, what's not working, and where they can go and look at situations and remediate or even plan their operations or reorganize themselves to stay in safer and comfortable locations. So this is another perspective that we have brought in, and this has been welcome and appreciated quite a bit, both from the infrastructure management side as well as from the operations side. I think these were the quick experiences that we wanted to share. Can we move on to the next slide, Martha? Those were all the environmental impacts, and along with NRC, we're also looking at what other social impacts these initiatives are creating, and we're trying to do a feedback into our future projects. Obviously, there is these are the key objectives that we are striving to meet, as well as have seen some good success. Minimizing waste, we have been able to create that as a culture of conscious use. And if they get triggers, for example, if the temperature outside is lower and you're actually setting a higher set point or a lower set point incongruent with the planned standards, the system actually sends out a message to the FMs as well as to the occupants, saying that your location is using inappropriate settings. You might want to take care of it. So In some situations, we can automatically do it. In some situations, we don't want to keep changing things. We want to make them more conscious. Particularly with thermostats, there is this override option. So they're able to override for a certain period, half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour, depending on what their preferences are. And whenever they do overrides, system sends out where are they actually wasting energy. So it's just an experiment that we have done to create consciousness. So that has actually really produced a lot of interesting improvement in their behavior. Commitment, avoiding travel has been another key metric across the portfolio, and crowdsourcing comfort and health. Generally we see the strategy is to have the FMs or whoever is managing the mechanical electrical systems decides the set points for across the entire building. Instead, can we allow users to say, I'm feeling hot, I'm feeling cold, can you make it warmer or colder? Everybody votes for it, and that increases or decreases on uses that as a trend to change the settings. So this is another experiment we have been doing. So this is playing out interesting, and I think we are slowly moving to a point where we can use this low-cost technology to create a broader consciousness of making world a better place is everyone's responsibility. So instead of just giving it as a concept, can we convert that into a data exchange that happens in real time with everybody? So that's the other social perspective that we have brought and we have been working with. And finally, the governance side. Martha, can we go to the next slide? So on the governance side, the drive that we are taking is it's probably easier to do it just once, but it's hard to keep it as a process every day. And the most important thing is if we intervene on the devices and then make sure HVAC is taken care of or lighting is taken care of, or we bring some kind of a schedule or a strategy for changing set points, operational times, and so on and so forth. But in spite of it, if the performance is bad, then they need to go and look at the conventional spaces. For example, are the materials used in the building okay? Are they comparing with other similar buildings in the right way? And what could be the other root causes for improper performance? I think all of these cannot be automated. These have to be brought into the broader governance structure. So we are trying to bring automation as much as possible, and wherever automation is not possible, we want to actually bring enough information to the key decision makers and help them start look at more detailed stuff. So for example, if a particular location is underperforming compared to the rest of them, then that could be the target location where an expert can be brought in to review the building code compliance or materials being used and whatnot. So I think this is the direction in which we are guiding the FM teams in both CBRE as well as JLL, which we are working with in these large customers of ours. So that the ultimate interest is how do we continue to minimize waste? That's what we are keeping as the driving factor. And we are using the new ESG language to try and map the usual intentions and drive them and deliver them in a new way, and make use of the low cost technologies that are easily available today in the market. So with that, I think those were the few thoughts I wanted to share today. And I'm happy to answer any questions, thoughts, criticisms. Thank you.
Thanks, Chandran. Wonderful presentation. I think key insights that you provided on the platform that facility managers can use to ensure balance the ESG with health and comfort, as well as save month on month along the way. Thank you very much. And I think you also got an interesting point on a lot of data in the cloud with multiple vendors and having some kind of an, I can say, universal data exchange standard that can kind of be utilized by systems can actually ensure having a common language that these devices can speak and aggregate data would be an insight that I take from this presentation. And I'm open to others who want to kind of have any questions to President at this point in time.
I have a question here. When you're dealing with these companies with buildings that are less than 20,000 feet, who is the key decision maker? Is that typically, and are these single tenant buildings typically that they own or lease? What tends to be your target audience?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. So we have in these 600 plus locations, more than 40% is single tenant, whereas almost 60% is multi-tenant, and it's also not fully owned. In case of multi-tenants, it's not fully owned, and you have very minimal control or access to controlling the entire building's management system. So there, the strategy they have taken, so the decision maker is primarily the company which is running the business, which is in this case Royal Bank of Canada or Infrastructure Ontario or CBRE, whoever is running the operations. And
so they could be the tenant.
That's right. That could be they're basically the tenants. And so in some situations, we were able to integrate with the central building automation systems, which are already there, and override site points to them. In most situations, they had independent rooftop units. In fact, they have had a strategy of deploying independent rooftop units in most of their small commercial buildings. So because of that, it was relatively much easier for us to get access to and control. So in short, the decision maker was actually the tenant.
That's great. And when you're looking at these multi-use buildings where the tenant might not own the whole building, do they have to be separate utilities for the spaces? How does triple net impact what you're trying to do? Are there contractual issues that you end up with?
Yeah. So what we did was, in some places where we did not have access to their central systems, we used a simple strategy of deploying a local power meter for the branch, and we could measure consumption. We could not control the devices, but we could measure consumption of energy at every consumption point. And using power meter, we actually extrapolated the actual usage and gave feedback to the owners.
That's great. So the tenants are driving it and the owners are also reaping benefit. What a great scenario there.
Yeah. And because the tenant was seeing a saving of almost 19% on the energy side, they were all over it.
Wow, that's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it was a win-win it's been a win-win for it.
Great. Harsha, not seeing any other questions popping up. And if anyone does, either put it in the Q&A box, or I think you can just take your mic off mute.
Sure. Thanks, Rajendran. Appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And as I said, since we are doing a lot of air quality stuff, I know, Greg, you mentioned you're looking at a research project sometime soon on the air quality side. I'm happy to see how we can contribute and collaborate in any way, Greg.
For sure. I'll reach out to you after the call. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the slides will be available to everyone. We'll post them on the IBC website and share them out in a link following the call.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Harsha, for moderating that. That was great. And thanks, Rajendran, for that presentation. We're going to switch gears now and pass it over to Ken Wax to discuss our white papers subcommittee update. Ken?
Thank you very much, Bob. We continue to make progress on the white papers, which is an undertaking both of the Intelligent Buildings Council and the Connected Home Council, each group doing white papers appropriate to the topic of either buildings or homes. We've completed the following white papers: bipolar ionization and its contribution to smart and safe buildings. Rajiv Sahay of Pure Air Control Services Incorporated chaired this development. I'm pleased to say the paper is done and it's now been posted to the CABA website. Now let's turn to the papers in progress. We have, first of all, part 2, impacts of automated shading in building projects. This is a new paper and a continuation of a very well-respected paper that was introduced under the same name. Abhijit Panda of TRC Energy Services chairs the working group, and we expect the paper to be completed soon. The second paper in progress is fire alarm systems in buildings. Suzanne Alfano, Canadian Fire Alarm Association, chairs this. And again, we're looking for progress and completion as soon as possible. The third paper underway is Architecting Intelligent Self-Learning Adaptive Smart Campus Framework for Smart Cities. Krishnan Murthy Raman of Navtat Solutions chairs this, and we hope they're making good progress. And finally, assuring healthy buildings using smart technologies. Mark Cavallo and Dan Isaacs of D&M Engineering chairing and authoring the papers. The next group meeting has been scheduled for Wednesday, February 16th. The completed papers are available on the website shown here, caba.org/whitepapers. I want to remind the chairs of the papers underway that progress is in their hands. It's really up to the chairs to call the meetings. Marta has been very diligent in reminding the chairs of their voluntary contribution to CABA and organizing and leading the development of these papers. So we look forward to these volunteers to continue the good work and make progress on completing their papers. That concludes my presentation on IBC. I just want to remind everyone that we also have the CABA Information Council that reviews papers that are out and published elsewhere that are relevant for CABA members. We put it in a library that has literally over 1,000 papers in it that we've reviewed. And a review is not just a quick read, but we score the paper as relevant for you and give you keywords to help you search for the papers. We keep the commercial advertising to a minimum, or at least towards the end of the paper, so there's actually useful content, either technical or marketing, in every paper we publish. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thanks, Ken. And before you go, and I don't know if this might be a question for Greg as well, but if a member has a topic that they'd like to collaborate with other members, what's the process to going through that?
Well, it's primarily to bring it to the attention of Greg, who will then work with Marta, set up a committee, and I'll be informed of it. And I personally participate in many of these committees to remind people that we want a paper of general interest to the IBC audience.
Great. Thanks for the insight. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Good, Greg.
Oh, I was just gonna say you could bring forward topics to anyone at CABA, and then and then we'll be able to take it from there. And you don't need to be an author of the paper. Like if you do want to author the paper, that's great. If you don't want to author it, we can even work with some of our research firm members and others to even authoring a paper on a given topic.
That's even better news, because if I don't have to write it, I have a lot of great ideas.
Well, we just have to caution you. Lots of people have great ideas. We need people to roll up their sleeves and do the work too.
Absolutely. And that's why I joke, because I know there are a lot of great ideas out there, but we do struggle at times to find folks who are willing to chair it and actually put the pen to paper. And Ken, you've done an amazing job championing this. Great. All right, moving on. Next, we have new business. And this is your opportunity to bring new ideas to the table here. So I'll ask right out, if anyone has any new business, please bring it forward now. In particular, we're looking for ideas on new keynotes, new white papers, new projects to discuss, and even any agenda items that you may want to see on future IBC meetings. And I'm sorry, I think I cut someone off. So whoever that was, please continue.
No, this is David. I don't know if Brad Cult is on, but he is starting a building intelligent group. Over 20 chapters they have across North America. We're going to do the GTA one. And I think that, he already extended a MOU kind of idea with Greg. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention of people on this call, is that we're going to try to have, group meetings when we come face to face and be in restaurants kind of thing, or meeting rooms. And so I just wanted to share that with CABA. And I think there would be a great outreach from CABA to all these groups for new members and more ideas.
Great, thank you. Hey, Greg, do you want to add anything or comment on that?
Yeah, that was a good referral. I had a call with them since that last meeting, and we're working on ways to work together. They're a small group that does a lot of more local meetups at different cities on specifically around intelligent buildings, and a lot of it do with real estate as well.
Great. Any other new business items? Okay.
I will repeat, we have the opportunity now. We have our building intelligence quotient up at building-iq.com. We're looking for test buildings. We are offering a free pilot. This was developed many years ago for CABA, but it's been redeveloped in light of smart technologies now. So anybody that wants to sign up, building-iq.com, and we can see if we can do a pilot with them. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. All right. Any other new business? Hearing none, I will turn the reins back over to Bob Lane for announcements.
I did not attend either of these events. Greg, I don't think you did either. I have really nothing. Bob, you might know, did you go to Bixby in Florida, Orlando, or not?
I did. Yeah, I did attend Bixby. I thought the show was well put together, as they always do.
Right.
I thought, and I'm comparing now back to August when they did the fall or summer event in Vegas. There were a lot more vendors, as there usually are for the winter conference, but I think even proportionally compared to years in the past, there were definitely more vendors than I expected to see there, which was great. Even felt that there were more attendees. I was lucky enough to have a session in one of the conference rooms and had over 100 people attend.
Yeah.
So I think that as a whole, trade shows are heading back in the direction of quality events again, and I strictly mean on the attendance side. So I thought it was very well done.
We've seen very little attendance from most of the major players in Canada because of our crazy border issues at the moment. Certainly the AHR, there was a lot of the major Canadians didn't go down to it.
Makes sense. I know the border is tough, and
Oh, it's a nightmare.
I mean, Florida is the place to be if you're looking to have minimal restrictions. I actually thought there were less restrictions in Florida than there were
Yeah,
in Vegas.
we just actually, one of my clients, Nokia, we just moved the Smart City Group, which really operated out of Canada for North America. We just put them down in Fort Myers.
Makes sense. Yep.
They love it down there. They're right on the beach now in a condo.
Are there any other comments on shows or any other past events that we need to talk about?
Coming
I know
up,
some future events coming.
there'll be the CX Energy one, I guess, in Orlando, and Distribute Tech, which really brings together, I guess, all the utilities, et cetera, in Dallas coming up in May. Any of you who haven't been to Distribute Tech, it's probably a pretty good operation. I don't know CX Energy at all.
Yeah, and one more that was just announced, I think yesterday, is IBCon is scheduled to be in Orlando the week of June 13th.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, they just announced that. So, so we have some good stuff coming back in the on the trade show front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that they just announced that, and I didn't go to AHR. We did have a booth, and we did 4 presentations there, and I talked to several people that were attending there, and it seems like the attendance was very good, and there's lots of positive feedback from that AHR event, which was also in Vegas. So it seems to be things are picking up.
That's great to hear. Great. Greg, before we go to our final agenda topic, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about today?
No, I don't have anything else on my end anyway.
Okay, excellent. Today's meeting, had a really good flow. We kind of got through everything quicker than we usually do. I'd like to make a special thank you to our keynote speaker today. That was a great presentation. Certainly opened my eyes on a few things as far as energy goes. So thank you very much, Rajendra, for joining us. And with that, I will make the next IBC meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 10th. So keep an eye out on your inboxes for the invite and the registration link. Hearing no more announcements, I'd like to call for a motion to close.
Also move, Robert, that we close the meeting and thank our guest speaker for a fine job. Well done.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and look forward to working together more with all of you.
Thank you again. Is there a second to that motion? Technically, we could not have
second it.
thanked him until we got the second. Thank you for that second. Anyone opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.